The night was cold, and the streets were eerily silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves. A stray dog limped through the dark, his fur matted with dirt, his ribs visible through his thin coat. But despite his pitiful state, there was urgency in his steps. His amber eyes flickered with desperation as he scanned the empty road. He had no voice to scream, no hands to grab help, but his heart pounded with a singular mission. He needed to find someone who could understand. Then, in the distance, flashing red and blue lights appeared. A police cruiser sat idly at the side of the road, its headlights cutting through the darkness. The dog's pace quickened, his paws thudding against the cold pavement. He ran straight for the officers, his tail neither wagging nor tucked but held rigidly still. He barked, short, sharp bursts filled with urgency. Officer Reed sat in the driver's seat, sipping his coffee, when he noticed the dog approach. At first, he thought nothing of it. Stray dogs were common in this part of town. But something about this dog's eyes made him pause. They were filled with something he couldn't quite place, pleading, almost human-like desperation. "Hey, buddy. What's up?" he murmured, rolling down the window. The dog barked again, more insistent this time. Then, to Reed's astonishment, the dog turned and ran a few steps away before stopping and looking back. He repeated the motion: run, stop, look back. Reed exchanged glances with his partner, Officer Blake. "I think he wants us to follow." "You're kidding, right?" Blake scoffed, but when the dog whined and repeated his plea, something in her gut told her this was no ordinary stray. Reed sighed, putting the car in gear. "Let's see what he wants." The moment the cruiser started moving, the dog bolted ahead, leading them down the empty street. They followed him through winding alleys and past darkened storefronts until they reached an old, abandoned warehouse. The dog stopped at the entrance, barking wildly, his body tense. Reed stepped out, shining his flashlight towards the building. "You think this is a setup?" "Only one way to find out," Blake said, her hand resting on her holster. They moved cautiously, but the dog wasn't waiting. He darted inside, his nails clicking against the concrete floor. A faint whimper echoed through the vast emptiness. That sound sent a shiver down Reed's spine. It wasn't from the dog, it was human. "Help, please." Blake's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" Reed nodded, sweeping his light across the room until the beam landed on a small, crumpled figure in the corner. A young girl, no older than 8, lay bound and gagged, her face streaked with dried tears. "Oh my God," Blake gasped, rushing to her side. She untied the bindings with trembling fingers while Reed radioed for backup. The girl sobbed as Blake pulled her into a protective embrace. The dog stood beside them, his tail wagging ever so slightly, but his eyes remained locked on the girl. He whined softly, nudging her arm with his nose. The girl gasped, recognition dawning in her eyes. "Rex?" The officers exchanged glances. "You know him?" Reed asked gently. The girl nodded, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "He's my dog. They took me, and he chased them, but they hit him. I thought he was gone." Rex licked her face, his body vibrating with relief. The girl clung to him, sobbing into his fur. Within minutes, sirens filled the air as more police units arrived. Officers swarmed the building, securing the area and searching for any remaining threats. It didn't take long for them to find 2 men attempting to flee through a back exit. They were swiftly apprehended, their faces drained of color as they were shoved into squad cars. Reed crouched beside the girl. "You're safe now," he assured her. "And it's all thanks to Rex." The little girl hugged her dog tightly. "He saved me," Blake smiled, ruffling Rex's fur. "He's a real hero." News of the miraculous rescue spread quickly. The next day, headlines read, Stray dog leads police to missing child, a hero with 4 paws. But to Rex, none of that mattered. He had only one mission in life, to protect his girl. And he had done just that. But what happened next was even more shocking. The police began digging into the identities of the kidnappers. To their surprise, they weren't just common criminals, they were part of an underground trafficking ring. The girl was not their first victim, and she wouldn't have been their last. Authorities now had a lead, and Rex's actions had set off a chain reaction that would bring justice to many more families. Rex and the girl were reunited with her family, who had feared the worst. Her parents wept as they held her, whispering endless thank yous to the officers and to Rex. The police department decided to honor Rex. They held a ceremony in his name, calling him the bravest dog in town. But Rex didn't care for medals or applause. He simply curled up next to his girl that night, his heart finally at peace. The roads were busy again, and life returned to normal. But for the people in that town, the sight of a stray dog would never be the same again. Because sometimes, heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes, they have 4 legs, a wagging tail, and an undying love that knows no bounds.